Okay, you guys, we're back, and I'm going to read you a couple more chapters of Cracker, the Best Dog in Vietnam by Cynthia Kadohata, and we'll see how well you like it. Chapter 2. If you remember in chapter 1, Willie and Cracker live in Chicago, Illinois, and Willie's dad has just lost his job, and so he's had to take a lower paying job. So they couldn't afford their house, so they had to move into an apartment building. And because they moved into an apartment building, Willie's not allowed to keep Cracker. He's not allowed to have his dog. So he's tried to find somebody to take Cracker in, and no one wants him. And they went to the pound, and they found out that at the pound, if they left him there, her there, that more than likely she'd be put down, put to sleep, and they don't want to do that. So because the United States military is taking military dogs to volunteer work for the military, Willie has decided to donate her to the United States Armed Forces. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to give Cracker to the Army. And so when we left them, when we read yesterday, um, Willie had gone to school because he didn't want to be there when um, the man from the army came to get it, Cracker. And so, anyway, Dad and Mom were there, and Cracker noticed things were weird because they were being extra nice to her and letting her get away with things. And anyway, they put a muzzle over her mouth and one of those choker leashes that had the chain that could get tight real quick. And the guy knew what he was doing, and he came to get her. So anyway, let's read a chapter. Chapter 2. Willie looked up at the third floor window where he always saw Cracker waiting for him. He gasped when he saw that Cracker wasn't there. That might mean they'd already taken her. She had ESP, so she always knew he was coming home, even when he was early. He started to trot. He'd probably get in trouble the next day for the way he jumped up from his desk and ran from the classroom, but his parents could write a letter making up some excuse. Willie called out to the closed window, "Cracker! Cracker!" She didn't appear, and Willie broke into a sprint. He ran up to his apartment steps, two at a time. When he burst inside, he was already calling out, "Cracker!" He stopped with just one foot inside the apartment. The other foot forgot to move. There was Cracker wearing a muzzle, and there were both his parents, and there was a man in uniform holding a leash that was attached to Cracker. Fury overcame Willie. "Let go of her!" he shouted. His mother and father stared at him, and then his mother said, "You're home," as if his being home were the odd thing, and not the man in uniform holding the leash that was attached to Cracker. Willie looked accusingly at the man. "What are you doing?" Now his other foot remembered to move, and he walked right up to the man and demanded, "Give me that leash." He put both hands around the leash. Cracker came to life, growling at the man. Willie's father grabbed a hold of Willie's wrists. "Willie, please," he added. "You're making it harder on the dog." Willie's mother said, "Sweetheart," and she reached out to pull him to her, but he shrugged her off. "Sweetheart? Cracker will be a war hero. Remember when we watched the news that night? The war dogs of Vietnam? You said it was neat." She smiled, but Willie could see that her smile was phony. "Mom, please," Willie cried out. Willie tried to grab the leash again while Cracker strained toward him. Willie's father held him back and said, "Willie, you have to think about Cracker for a minute. Look how upset you're making her." And indeed, Willie saw the desperation in Cracker's eyes. He had made her terrified. So he stepped back and whispered, "Bye, Cracker." The man pulled as Cracker struggled. "Heel," the man said. The last thing Willie saw was a glimpse of her frightened brown eyes, and then the door closed. He ran to the window and stared as Cracker and the man left the building. Cracker looked up at him before the man tore off the leather contraption and loaded her into a crate in the back of a van. When the van drove off, Willie watched until he couldn't see anymore. He didn't cry at all. It was just, the whole world was completely different now. It didn't matter if the Cubs won or lost. It didn't matter if his father had a job or not. And it didn't matter if he ever went back to school. The thought occurred to him that he should have cut off the hair at the tip of Cracker's tail or her nails or something so he could always have a piece of her. It was crazy, but he felt like he would give anything in the world for one of her toenails.